Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Hello, welcome back. I am so excited to share with you today's guest, Vanessa. She is somebody that I met at that recent conference that I went to. It was called the Empower Her Conference, and it was in Port Huron, Michigan, shared and hosted by my friend Demarie, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And so I was able to connect with so many women at this conference, and one of those women being Vanessa. We actually didn't get to meet in person, but through the world of social media and seeing women that were at the conference being tagged in posts and stories and things like that, I was able to do a little bit of my own social media creeping and check out her page, and I was able to find these women that I knew needed to be guests on this podcast. And so I invited Vanessa to come on today because she is a registered dietitian nutritionist, and she actually specializes in women's health and hormones. And so immediately when I got to her page and I started following her stories, I knew, yes, this is somebody that our listeners need to hear about. So Vanessa uses a holistic approach to identify your root causes to improve symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, low sex drive, PMS, painful periods, acne, and gut issues. So she talks a lot about nutrition, not in the sense of like getting your weight loss and typical things that you see when it comes to diet and nutrition, but really just your overall general health. And I love that because y'all know I'm not into the diet shit, fuck diet culture, all that. So, and cool thing, Vanessa is also the co-host of the Wellness Myths podcast. So we are going to be talking today about we're going to be talking about PMS today. PMS in that it's not normal actually for PMS to be happening. We're going to talk about tips for having more energy and having less painful periods. We're going to expand on this when it comes to those painful periods, the low sex drive, fatigue, just in general, how your hormones contribute to all of these things. So without further ado, let's dive into this interview. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on today. I'm so excited to have this conversation. As I was just telling you, I think this is actually the first episode where we've really dove deep into the hormone talk, which I'm very excited for listeners to be able to hear more about this. And then, as you said, you can help people learn how this plays a part in their things that they're experiencing all day, like your gut issues, your fatigue, your brain fog, your sex life, which I know we'll tap into. But yeah, thank you so much again for coming on. And I want you to share with listeners, like, how is it that you got started in this work, since you are a dietitian and a nutritionist?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So I got started, I guess, way back in getting started being a registered dietitian. Food has always been a big part of my life. It was always really important to me. For a long time, I thought, this is just going to be a hobby. And then I was kind of like, wait a minute, I can make this my job, and that seems kind of fun too. And I can help other people maximize their health using nutrition and lifestyle. And then I kind of honed that down into specializing in women's health and hormones from my own issues. So like most people, you suffer with something and then you're like, wait a minute, I need to solve this. And then you want to help everyone else with it too. So I, as long as I remember having periods, I had horrible mood swings. I had horrible back cramps. I mean, it would be like guaranteed fights with my husband the week before my period. I remember calling my mom like on the verge of tears because my cramps hurt so bad. And I'm not sure why I needed to tell my mom about that, but it just feels like, she needed to know that I was in pain. And I didn't feel like myself. I was spending at least a week or more of every month feeling like a different person, and I didn't know how to control it. And kind of my come to Jesus moment, if you will, was a day I was out playing tennis with my husband. I did not feel like myself at all. In one point of tennis, which is not very long, I was like crying, angry, feeling all of the emotions, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on with me? Like, I feel like one moment I'm having rage, the next moment I'm like sappy and crying. And then on the way home from that tennis match, I felt so low that for a moment I thought about swerving my car into the ditch. And wow, that scared me. I was like, whoa, something is going on here. And I need to fix it. And I'm a registered dietitian. I know how to use food and nutrition to help people heal. So why can't I heal my hormones with that? So I dove straight headfirst into the science with that and healed myself and kind of never looked back.
Wow. That I was not expecting that story to come out from you whatsoever. And that I love that when I interview people on this podcast and hear about their stories and how they got into the type of work. I love when it comes from that place of healing within yourself and then being able to share these gifts with other people. And, reading in your bio, you are someone that is super active. Like you said, you're playing tennis, you like to do skiing, outdoors, hiking, all of that. And so for a woman that likes to enjoy all those things and that is very much part of your livelihood, and then you're feeling like these low moments, you're feeling these mood swings, these painful symptoms, let's say if it's more associated with PMS, and then I think there's so much just beauty behind the fact that we all have hormones, right? And it's like we all have this power within us to be able to educate ourselves and do the research and read the things, the books, listen to the things, all of that to learn more about yourself. Because for a lot of this stuff, it does take us to do this work within ourselves. But we are so grateful to have people like you to guide us along this. So when you first started digging into this hormone thing, where was it? Where did you first turn to? Was it books, podcasts, people? Where were the early resources for you?
So the early resources were a lot of just looking at studies. So I love Google Scholar and was just looking at like scientific study after scientific study and following people on Instagram. So following other registered dietitians that were in the hormone space. The first couple that I found, I think, were the women's dietitian and the hormone dietitian. And those were kind of the people that inspired me to kind of take this work further and dig deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, just again, so grateful for people out there that are specializing in these type of things. And so when you started this work, so you started to understand more about your hormones, what do you remember were the first changes that you started to see within yourself?
So the first changes probably were with my mood swings, and all of a sudden it was like I wasn't wasting that week before. I felt normal. And my period came and I was like, oh, wait, what? That it felt like it came out of nowhere, even though it didn't. I mean, it was coming at the normal time, but I wasn't experiencing those same symptoms that kind of before I just thought, well, this is life, Mm-hmm. I'm a woman, I have a period, so that means I have PMS, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that stuff isn't normal. And if that is happening to you, it's kind of your body being like, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Hello, listen to us. We want to tell you something. And sometimes it tells you quite loudly.
Yeah. And then that brings up to me the people that I've talked about or colleagues and friends and clients that then realize, in their 30s, 40s, 50s that they actually have PCOS or endometriosis, right? So they've been dealing with these symptoms for so long and they just thought it was the norm because I'm sure you as a kid, right? You hear girls in class like, oh, I'm on my period. Like, oh, I can't do that because I'm on my period. I can't do gym because I'm on my period. And I think there was like a level to our immaturity at some points where we're like, oh, whatever, we kind of blow it off. And especially if you're not that person that was experiencing those same symptoms. So yeah, again, getting clear and listening to your body that it is trying to protect you. It is trying to keep you safe. That's so important. And one thing that we have talked about on this podcast is menstrual cycle tracking, which is kind of what you were just getting at. Like you said, that week before that luteal phase is really when shit kind of hits the fan for a lot of women. Mm-hmm. But it really, if somebody was listening to this and they're already cycle tracking, but they want to add in this more intensive hormone component to it, what is like the 101 that we need to know about hormones, would you say?
So the 101 that I think everyone should start with, well, even before I talk about any changes that you make, I want you to remember that, so hormones are just chemical messengers. If your hormones are out of whack or they're unhappy in some way, it is a deeper issue. So there is an issue deeper than just those hormones. It might be in your adrenal glands, it might be in your gut, it might be in your liver. So there's something going on that's causing that. So yes, you might have high estrogen, but you want to look deeper into that. What's causing the high estrogen? Is it that you are exposed to a lot of environmental toxins? For a lot of us, maybe. Mm-hmm. So that is a really important thing to remember, is that there's always something deeper. With hormones, my number one thing, and with nutrition in general, and I always say this, you can eat as much kale as you want. You can eat, every healthy food out there, every superfood out there. If you're super stressed out, it's not going to help you. So you want to work on stress first. And I know that's not fun to hear, because everyone's like, give me all the foods to eat. And I want to do that for you. I want to give you all the great nourishing foods to support your body, but you have to start with kind of like giving your body a hug first. And that's by alleviating stress.
Yeah. So you're thinking more meditation, journaling, yoga practices, like things like that people can do, going for walks, mindfulness, like starting to incorporate those things first before jumping right into the food stuff. Because as you just said, if you're jumping right into the food stuff and you're still stress mode, they're not going to see those effects.
Right.
Yeah, that's super important for people to know. I feel like that has been my light bulb moment so far in here.
Yeah. Well, and it's all those things like meditation, like you mentioned, meditation, yoga, walking, being in nature, but it's also finding joy. So doing things that make you laugh. Doing things that just bring you joy. What did you do as you were a kid that made you just super happy? Go back to those things. Find those things and do them. Even if it's silly, even if you look dumb doing it, who cares? Mm-hmm. It's really, really important. And I feel like people think like, oh, I need to like sit on the floor with my legs crossed and for hours. Mm-hmm. And that isn't what it has to be.
Yeah, it can be that, but it certainly does not be.
Yes, absolutely. And having a breathing practice is so important for so many things, but it can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay, so understanding that it's more so the stress factor, the relaxation factor that you want to hit first, then moving into the foods. So can you touch a little bit on just those foods that you would recommend for people that are wanting to support their hormones better?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on what is going on with your hormones. And that would depend on what foods you want to focus on. But let's say you're someone who's struggling with PMS. Focusing on magnesium foods or doing a magnesium supplement can be really helpful. Focusing on fish oil or eating fish 3 times a week can be really helpful. Focusing on anti-inflammatory foods, especially as you're approaching your period. So in that luteal phase, before your bleed starts, focusing on things like ginger and turmeric can be really, really helpful for that. It's kind of a loaded question, just like when you say, oh, like what foods should you eat? Because it really depends what's going on. If your hormone issue is with your cortisol, if it's with your estrogen, progesterone, if it's with your thyroid hormones. So, specific foods can change for that. But across the board, eating enough is really important. Eating lots of veggies is really important. Eating enough fiber is really, really important.
Yeah. All the things that you probably want to do if you have any other health goals in mind, right? Like it all adds up. And yeah, that's what I remember learning. I had read the book In the Flow by Lisa Vide, and she talks a lot about, eating to your menstrual cycle. Like I said, we've talked quite extensively about the menstrual cycle on this podcast, actually. But I've actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I've had another guest on here called, we talked about Diet for Great Sex. That was her book that she made. And so lots of the same conversations. Now, when you're thinking somebody that is now eliminating stress from their life, or at least decreasing stress from their life, they start to eat better. What can they notice? Like you said, you can see these changes amongst your gut health, brain fog, things like that. What are the things that people might start to notice that could indicate to them more so that it's working, that what they're doing is working?
Yeah, so something really obvious that you might notice is that you're having a daily bowel movement. So if you're not already doing that, that could be a really good indicator that things you are doing are working. You'd be surprised how many people tell me that they're only going like once a week or once every few days. That is not normal. You need to be going every day. Other things that, are good signs is when you wake up in the morning, you feel awake. You don't feel like you have to crawl to the coffee pot and like sip your first 3 sips before you want to talk to anybody. Now, you might just not be a morning person. You don't want to talk to people in the morning anyway, but you should at least, not feel like you can't get out of bed. You should be feeling like you fall asleep easily at night. You should be feeling like you have pretty good energy throughout the day. So you shouldn't be hitting that 2 p.m. slump and feeling like you need to find some more caffeine or sugar to carry you through the rest of your workday. So just that constant energy is really important.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like I can add to the sexual side of this, for a lot of women that I work with, they are feeling exhausted at the end of the day, right? So for a lot of couples, the sex time is at nighttime when it is bedtime. And I always coach people to not do that. You can have sex any time of day. It does not have to necessarily be during the day. I always tell my husband, like, get me before dinner, man. Like after dinner is like couch time, reading time, like bedtime is bedtime, So when people are starting to notice these changes, right, they have better gut health, they have more energy, they're able to sleep better. Would you say then that is also going to help increase their let's say sexual desire or arousal, those things, maybe even increase their chances of having orgasms when all of these other things are working correctly in their body?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you are super fatigued and have brain fog throughout the whole day, I mean, you're probably not coming home feeling like you're really in the mood to have sex. I mean, you're probably in the mood to go to bed. So that is so important to have those energy levels, I think.
Yeah. And what else, when it comes to the sexual side of this, when you think of sex and hormones, what are other things that people need to know about this area?
Yeah, so something that I see a lot when people come to me and they say they have low sex drive, one of the things is sometimes it's a side effect of birth control. And if that's happening, you might need to switch your birth control or find a different method that might work better for you. Also, low testosterone is a really, really big one. So some other symptoms that you might notice with low testosterone are things like having a little bit more belly fat. You might feel like you're going to the gym and you're not gaining any more muscle, low energy, and here comes brain fog again. So those low testosterone symptoms are a lot of times they also come with a low sex drive. And you can support testosterone production with things like vitamin D, zinc, strength training is really, really good for testosterone production. Maca is good for testosterone. And you want to look at your adrenal gland function or your HPA axis. That's something you want to support, especially if you have low testosterone. So what happens is our HPA excess is just the way that we produce cortisol, and it's supposed to spike in the morning and then kind of gradually go down throughout the day. A lot of people end up having more of a flat curve, and it leaves you feeling tired and things like that. So those stress alleviation techniques and adaptogens can be really, really helpful to get that back in order.
And so for someone that was wanting to get hormone testing done, how do you have anywhere that you would recommend? Would you say just a regular doctor, or I know like Everlywell does hormone testing, but is there any that you would prefer or refer for people to do?
Yeah, so I actually do hormone testing in my practice. So I do something called the Dutch test. So that tests your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol. It maps that free cortisol pattern. So you can see where it is throughout the day. And it's really, really, really great. A lot of times people come to me thinking they have a certain thing going on, and by their symptoms, it might seem like, for example, they have high estrogen. Their Dutch test comes back and it can be completely different. So I love testing for that reason. I'm almost always surprised by something in there. And it just helps us have a really, really targeted approach at how we're going to work together. So, especially with supplements, I feel like sometimes people tend to take them a little willy-nilly, and it can be a waste of your time and money. It can also be kind of dangerous. So it's good to have that hard data of this is what's going on and this is what we can hit it with.
Yeah, that is super helpful to know. And so for someone that's going through hormone testing, what does that process look like? Is it a mouth swab? Is it a blood draw? Pee in a cup? Like, what is it that they would have to do if they came in or went to a doctor for this?
Yeah, so it's urine samples. It's something that gets sent right to your home. If you have a 28-day cycle, you take it in your luteal phase after ovulation. So typically like day 19 to 22, that window will change a little bit depending on how long your individual cycle is. But you take 4 samples, you pee on a piece of, it's basically filter paper. So it's a dried urine sample. And then you send it back to the lab and they send the results to me.
Wow. Okay. So that's pretty easy. So is somebody that's not local to you able to take part in your services?
Yes. So I do everything virtually. So I can work with people in most states. It does depend on the state a little bit. But definitely anyone in Michigan I can work with. Out of state just depends on their specific licensure rules. Because some states with dietitians, you can only practice as an in-state dietitian.
Got it. And is it something that typically insurance would cover for people, or what, if it was out of pocket, what usually is the price of something like this?
Yeah, so it is something that, so I don't take insurance right now. I can take FSA or HSA funds, as long as that's something that's covered by your FSA or HSA. And that package, so I do the test with a 45-minute consultation, and that is $500.
Okay. Yeah, that's, definitely reasonable, especially given all these benefits that we've outlined already for people. And like I said, if you've been trying, like if somebody's already been trying so many things, like even exercise, we haven't really talked much about exercise, but exercise, changing up their diet, and it's not working, right? And I love that you said most people with supplements, they are willy-nilly. I'm a willy-nilly person myself, for sure. And I know when I take the things that my doctor has told me to take, or that I'm doing to support my menstrual cycle, like I know that I feel better. So I think for some of us, it does come down to that accountability piece. But for a lot of people, this might be the first time they're even hearing about hormone testing or how hormones can help somebody so much, especially women.
Yeah. And if you're someone who's listening and you're completely new to hormones and you've never tracked your cycle and you're like, this is all new stuff to me, just start there. Start with tracking your cycle. All you need is, I like the Clue app. You can also just use a calendar or a piece of paper. You don't need anything fancy. To find your ovulation, you'll want to take your temperature too. So all you need for that is a basal body temperature thermometer. You can get one for really cheap. I think you can buy one for like $10 on Amazon. You'll just take your temperature before you get up in the morning, record that before you get up. You can look at all of your temperatures throughout the month, and then that'll show you your fertile window. So what we're looking for is a little increase in your temperature that lets us know that you created progesterone, and you do not create progesterone unless you ovulate. So it lets us know, okay, you ovulated, here's your fertile window, and that can tell us so much. Just knowing when the the phases of your cycle are, I think are really empowering for, being able to schedule your social calendar, for being able to schedule your workouts, and being able to, what foods should I eat at certain times, or what can I expect? Also being able to track those symptoms. So if you are having cyclical symptoms, you can track them and say, oh my gosh, wait, I always get a migraine on day 27. Or things like that, where you can implement strategies and say, hey, I notice this is happening. I can implement these strategies to get rid of that or to reduce it, or whatever it might look like for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I love when other people come on to the podcast as guests and say the things that I have been telling them for so long, like tracking your cycle. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. I like to track my cycle right in my calendar for those exact reasons. I can see if it's an L, like luteal is my least favorite. It's also my longest part of my cycle, as of for many women. So I know, not to overexert my social life when I'm in the luteal phase. If someone's asking, oh, hey, when do you want to get together for lunch? I'm like, all right, where's my F? Where am I at in the follicular, or my ovulation, where I have more energy and I'm more apt to be in social, especially as being somebody that's an introvert. I feel like it's like you are able to biohack your life. You're able to unlock that, what I call pussy power. And it's very magical. And I think knowing your hormones and knowing more like the sciencey side of this, or the blood side even of this, is just another added layer to all of this, and giving women this power. I'm sure you experience this in your work. It's liberating for women to have this information about themselves, and to be able to, share, for instance, this podcast episode, share this with a friend. If this has touched you in some way, share this with a friend that could benefit from this. If you got a friend that's a little bit bitchy all the time, right? Or bitchy that's every time that month, you're like, I think you need to listen to this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just a low key, like nothing personal, but maybe you should listen to this.
Yeah. Like, I learned so much from this. You listen and tell me what you learned.
Yeah. And the other thing I love too, when we're talking about tracking your cycle, is understanding your energy levels is also just powerful, and understanding, hey, this is temporary. I feel tired tonight, but it's because my hormones are tanking right now, and that's normal. And in a couple days, my energy is going to be back. Mm-hmm. And I think especially for those people that are really high achievers and are always trying to push themselves, it's a good indicator of like, we shouldn't push right now. This isn't a good time.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. And I think it just gives women permission too, especially women that might be listening that are moms, or they have a lot of busy lives, they're juggling a lot of things. Oftentimes we start to feel that guilt when we do feel that tiredness, or even in our relationships, right? If we're feeling like we're tired, so we might not really be in the mood to have sex or want to have sex, we feel that guilt. We feel some shame kind of stewing up about that. But when you're able to track your cycle and again, have that better understanding about your body, then you're able to see, like, I love that you said that. Maybe not today, but I would love to set something up for next week, right? Whether that is a dinner date or a sex date or whatever, because that energy is going to come back. And if it's not coming back, to go and get your hormones tested, because it should be coming back.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Vanessa, is there any other things that you would want to share with listeners, or any resources that you think are helpful for people to have as they begin or continue this journey for themselves?
Yeah, so a couple resources that I really like. So I love the Period Repair Manual by Lara Bryden. That's a great read if you're someone struggling with PMS or painful periods, or if you're someone that's looking to maybe come off birth control. That book can be really helpful as well. AvivaRam.com is a great resource too. She is a naturopathic doctor. She has a bunch of blogs about different hormones, eating for your hormones, supplementing for your hormones. Of course, please don't Google things and then start taking a bunch of supplements based on a blog post, because it's very easy to be like, oh, I have that too. Yeah, this must be me. And sometimes it's not you, so don't do that. But it is really interesting and cool reads on there. So read it, but then talk to a professional. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a great book if you're looking to kind of perfect your sleep patterns. And then I like the Clue app for tracking my period. They used to give a fertile window. I don't think they do that anymore because they shouldn't have been giving that, because there's no way they could have known that just by the days that you were tracking. But it does, you can put your symptoms in there. You can put what's going on, and then it's a nice way to track your period and look back at, the consistency of your cycles and cyclical symptoms.
Yeah. I've never heard of the Clue app, so that's definitely helpful. I use the health app on iPhones, which I think is good, and they do give you a possible fertile window on there, which is definitely cool. Actually, I forgot to track my period earlier this week, and it's like, hello, have you started? And I was like waiting for it to be like, you might be pregnant. Like, you need to tell us that you're bleeding.
Yeah. You're like, it knows everything.
Yeah. I'm like, sorry.
And then one more resource. So I actually host a podcast as well with a dietitian buddy of mine. It's called Wellness Miss. We don't have a ton of women's health content on there yet. I'm planning on recording more, but just for health topics in general, we dive into a lot of like trends and things like that. I actually just recorded a podcast about acne not that long ago. So if that's something you struggle with, you can go over there and have a listen to that.
Awesome. Yeah. And all of these things that you mentioned, we'll definitely link them in the show notes so that people can just easily access them. Sometimes it's too hard to hear, spelling and things like that. So they'll be in the show notes for everybody. And then Vanessa, how can people find you or connect with you via social or email? What is your preference there?
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's at Nutrition for Gals. My website is www.nutritionforgals.com, and my email is vanessa@nutritionforgals.com.
Nutrition for Gals. In case you guys didn't get that, Nutrition for Gals, you'll find Vanessa.
Yes, just type in Nutrition for Gals and I'll pop up in some way.
I love that. Great handle for sure.
Thanks. I couldn't believe it wasn't taken.
Yeah, actually.
Honestly.
That's pretty good.
A win.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you again so much for coming on today. I'm very excited to share this podcast, and I'm sure you'll have people either following or reaching out that I know this will touch people in a good way, and just give, like I said, just give more awareness around this topic and give people the space to ask questions and do the research and do the work for themselves. Because again, these symptoms are a struggle. These things that we go through, so often, but they don't have to be the norm. And that's really what I wanted to be able to focus on this podcast. They don't have to be the norm. You have the power within you to make changes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.